Picture this. It's a freezing winter night and suddenly the power grid fails. Your entire house plunges into total darkness and dead silence. You're stumbling around blindly, feeling around in that one junk drawer for a flashlight. You finally grab it, hit the switch, and nothing. The batteries are completely drained, just like they always are when you actually need them. You dig out a few stray candles, but they melt down so fast you find yourself rationing them by the second evening. But here's the thing. Right now, use just a jar, a splash of cooking oil. You could build a light that will burn bright and steady for hours on almost nothing. As long as you have oil in your pantry, you have fire. It's honestly one of the oldest forms of lighting on the planet, and modern society has basically forgotten it even exists. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how to make it. In homes completely off the grid, crafting a light with your own two hands isn't some quirky party trick. It's quite literally how you survive after the sun goes down. I want to teach you how to make a real traditional oil lamp, the exact kind that illuminated the globe long before they ever ran copper wires to our neighborhoods. And before we get into it, I just want to mention that I've compiled all these forgotten traditional skills into a digital guide linked below. But that's all I'll say about that. Let's build a light. First things first, before we take a single step, we have to talk about safety, and I'm putting this right at the beginning so you can't skip it. We are building an open flame. It might be small, but it is real fire, and fire demands respect, or it will absolutely turn on you. Treat this lamp the exact same way you treat a lit candle or a blazing hearth. Never leave it burning alone in an empty room. Don't go to sleep with it on. Place it on a stable, fireproof surface where it absolutely can't get tipped over. Keep it far away from curtains, loose paper, and out of reach of curious kids or cats. If an oil lamp gets knockovers, you've got spilled fuel and a rapidly spreading fire on your hands. Watch it while it burns, and put it out the second you leave the room. If you follow these rules, this old world light is an absolute blessing. Ignore them, and it becomes a massive hazard. Respect the flame, and it'll serve you well. Now that we're clear on safety, let's look at how this beautiful little setup actually works. Once you grasp this concept, you'll grasp the mechanics behind every oil lamp in human history, from 8 lamp in K-Disher to those fancy brass antique. The secret is this: a puddle of oil doesn't easily catch fire on its own. But if you introduce a wick, just a piece of cotton, it acts like a sponge, drawing that oil up to the surface where the oxygen is, right at the very tip. The flame burns off the oil as quickly as the wick can deliver it. The cotton itself barely burns. It just acts as a ladder for the oil to climb. The flame camps out at the top of that ladder, sipping fuel drop by drop. Unlike a wax candle that consumes its own body to survive, an oil lamp just drinks from a reservoir. A tiny dish of oil can give you hours upon hours of light. When it gets low, you just pour a little more in, and it keeps on trucking. That's exactly how people read, worked, and survived long winter nights for thousands of years. It makes me think back to my grandmother's kitchen. That was where I first truly grasped what a light like this means. When dusk settled in, she trimmed the wick of her table lamp and struck a match. That one little flame transformed the entire space, pulling everyone together around the table. What always stuck with me was that she was never anxious about the encroaching dark. Today, I think we have this subconscious fear of it. We're constantly reaching for a light switch without even realizing it. But she had no fear, because her light wasn't dependent on some distant power plant that might fail. She literally held the power in her own hands. No raging storm, no uninvited guests, and no grid failure could take that away from her. She owned her light. There's a profound peace in that kind of self. Reliance that flicking a wall switch will never give you. Not being at the mercy of the dark is worth way more than the cost of a few batteries. Let's build the simplest version first. The kind you could throw together tonight in a total blackout. Use only kitchen supplies. You're going to need a container, and this is where safety comes back into play. You need a vessel that won't melt, won't tip over easily, and won't shatter from a lit heat. A thick glass canning jar or a sturdy drinking glass is perfect. A small metal tin works too, or even a heavy clay or stone bowl. What you absolutely cannot use is plastic. Plastic near an open flame will melt and catch fire. I see people online making these out of cut-up soda bottles, and it drives me crazy because it's incredibly dangerous. Stick to glass, clay, or stone. Now for a brilliant old-school trick. You don't fill the whole jar with oil. You start by pouring a good amount of water into the bottom, and then you float the oil right on top. Since oil and water don't mix, the oil sits in a perfect layer at the surface. This does two awesome things. First, it pushes the fuel right up to the top where you need it, using water as a free filler so you don't waste precious oil. Second, it creates a built-in safety shutoff. When the flame finally burns through all the fuel, it hits that water layer and just quietly goes out, instead of scorching the dry container. For your fuel, you want a gentle vegetable oil. Traditionally, olive oil is the absolute gold standard. It burns incredibly clean, gives off a bright light, and hardly smokes at all. And here's a great safety feature. Bulk olive oil is actually really hard to ignite, unlike volatile chemical fuels. But olive oil can get expensive, so standard cooking oil works just fine for everyday use, even if it smokes just a tiny bit more. Use the cheap stuff to practice, and save the olive oil for when you want a beautiful, clean burn. Let me be completely crystal clear about not to use. Never ever pour gasoline, kerosene, paint thinner, or white gas into an open jar lamp like this. Those volatile fuels release explosive vapors and are meant strictly for sealed, pressure, regulated lanterns. Putting gasoline in an open dish on your dining table is just asking for a disaster. Stick to gentle cooking oils. Even leftover bacon grease or melt animal fats will work in a pinch, though they'll smell more than olive oil. Oh, and here's a great thrifty tip. You can totally use your old leftover frying oil. Just strain the food crumbs out through a piece of cloth, and it'll burn beautifully. Next up is the wick, and getting this right is crucial. The absolute best option is 100% natural cotton. Cut a strip from an old t-shirt, grab some cotton twine, use a shoelace, or even tightly roll up a cotton ball. Natural fibers pull the oil up perfectly and burn at a nice, even pace. You can twist up a piece of paper towel or a napkin if you are desperate. But honestly, it flares up, burns out way too fast, and it's just a lousy wick. Stick with cotton. Your wick needs to stay at the surface, with just its tip exposed to the air. You'll need a small flotter again. Absolute no plastic here. The traditional method is to use a small slice of natural cork with a tiny hole poked through the center. Cork floats beautifully and doesn't easily catch fire. You can also use a small metal washer or fold up a little raft out of aluminum foil. Thread your cotton wick through your float so a tie nub sticks up on top to catch the flame while the long tail hangs down in the oil. Here is the single most important detail that makes or breaks the whole project. The tail of that wick must hang down in the oil to drink, but it cannot reach all the way down in the water. If the cotton sucks up water instead of oil, the lamp will sputter and die. Trim the tail so it stays suspended purely in the oil layer. The tip stays in the air, the tail drinks the oil, and it never once touches the water. To fire it up, let the wick sit for a minute so the cotton absorbs the fuel all the way to the top. A bone dry wick won't light. Dab a single drop of oil on the very tip, hit it with a match or lighter, and watch it settle into perfect lit flame. That tiny dish will glow for hours. When it runs low, just top it off right in the jar. As long as you have oil in your pantry, you have light. If you want to upgrade this from a quick blackout hack to a permanent, durable lamp, skip the float. Bend a piece of stiff wire into coil that sits on the bottom or hooks over the rim of the jar to hold your wick dead center. Or punch hole in a metal jar lid and feed the wick up through that. Centering the wick gives you a much steadier, reliable flame that you can use for years. Keep an eye on the flame size. You want small and calm, roughly the size of a small flame. If it's the size of a standoff rag smoke, it's how much wick rag expose. Trim it down. A small flame is safe and clean. A tall flame is just mess. When it's time to turn it off, do not blow on it. You'll send hot oil flying everywhere. Simply smother it, lay a metal spoon over the top, or dip the burning tip into the oil for a second, and pull it back up, let it cool, screw a lid on it, and stick it on a shelf. An oil lamp sitting ready in the closet is worth 10 flashlights with corroded batteries. I'll be straight with you. This simple, traditional method is how a lot of off-grid communities still light their homes today. Practice vary, but this knowledge isn't some closely guarded secret belonging to just one specific group. This is the shared inheritance of humanity. This is how everybody's ancestors lit their homes before the grid came along. It just got totally forgotten in the span of a single generation once electricity became the norm. There's no massive conspiracy hiding this from you. It's just that nobody profits from you knowing you can light your house with a jar and some pantry staples. When a storm hits, the market nudges you to buy expensive emergency gear that's just going to die in a drawer. So here is my challenge to you. Don't wait for a power outage to figure this out. Tonight, while the lights are on and everything is calm, build one. Practice it in the quiet so that when the darkness does come, you're already prepared. Drop a comment below and let me know how yours burn. And tell me if your grandparents used these back in the day, because those memories matter and deserve to be saved. Next time we talk, I am finally delivering on a promise I made a long time ago. We're going to break down exactly centuries. Old farmhouses stay incredibly warm on bitter nights, while modern suburban builds freeze over by morning. It's baked right into the architecture. That's the very next video, and there will be absolutely no more delays. So go make your lamp, never plastic. Water on the bottom, oil on top, cotton wick in the oil, small flame. Never leave it unattended. The people who built this country from the ground up knew exactly how to do this, and now you so too.